In July of 2018, 3 Russian journalists ventured into the war-torn nation of the Central African Republic to film a documentary. They were planning to stay there for 2 weeks. 3 days later, they were dead. Russian and Central African authorities said that they were randomly killed by a band of robbers while traveling on an unsafe road at night. But a lot of the details of the official accounts don't seem to add up. And what's even fishier is that attempts by outside investigators to look into the killings have been met with mysterious violence and intimidation. Experts and colleagues of the murdered journalists believe that Russia may be behind the killings. The reason? It turns out the journalists were trying to dig up info on Russia's secretive use of private military contractors in the Central African Republic, or CAR. Those contractors are reportedly backed by a very influential Russian oligarch named Yevgeny Prigozhin, who has close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin and has been charged by the US government with meddling in the 2016 presidential election. He and the rest of Putin's inner circle have an interest in keeping Russia's work in CAR, where Russia is seeking to mine minerals like uranium and gold, as hidden from public view as possible. Nobody knows exactly what happened that night in July. What we do know is that Russia's growing activities in Africa looks pretty shady. On July 28th, 3 Russian journalists landed in Bangui, the capital of CAR. They were prominent investigative reporter Orkhan Dzhemal, filmmaker Alexander Rastorguev, and cameraman Kirill Radchenko. They were working for the Investigation Control Center, a private media outlet funded by Mikhail Khodorkovsky, an exiled Russian oil tycoon critical of Putin. And they had come to CAR as part of an investigation for their documentary about the Wagner Group, a shadowy private military contractor which is reportedly linked to the Kremlin. They hired a driver and started working immediately, but they had trouble getting access to the military facilities they needed for their footage. On their 3rd day working in CAR, they were killed. It happened while traveling at night down a road near the town of Sibut, which is about 115 miles north of the capital. Russian and Central African authorities blamed the murder on a robbery, saying that, according to eyewitness testimony, a group of men emerged from the bush, ambushed them, and shot them dead. But journalists, human rights advocates, and political analysts say there are a lot of reasons to be skeptical of that explanation. They think it's possible that the Russian journalists were assassinated. One big reason is that the attack seemed highly targeted. While Dzhemal, Rastorguev, and Radchenko were all killed, the driver they hired was the only one to survive the attack. The car contained 3 canisters of gasoline, which are extremely valuable in CAR and would have been natural targets for robbers, but they were untouched. The Investigation Control Center, the sponsor of the trip, said the journalists were driving alongside another car, yet the other one was never attacked. And human rights experts who know the area say that the road they were traveling down has a reputation for being safe. But it gets weirder. Central African soldiers reportedly told locals in the area where the murder happened that they couldn't talk to the press. And local authorities made it hard for the driver who survived the attack to talk to outside investigators. On top of that, the Russian government's public messaging about the whole episode was pretty odd. Moscow almost seemed to blame Dzhemal, Rastorguev, and Radchenko themselves for their own murder by pointing out in public statements how they hadn't followed official media accreditation rules when entering CAR. And state-controlled Russian media outlets politicized the event in an unexpected way. They criticized Khodorkovsky, the exiled oligarch who backed the Wagner documentary, in their coverage of the murder. Then, when outsiders started poking around to get some questions answered, things got even shadier. In September, a prominent member of the anti-Kremlin Russian activist group Pussy Riot collapsed a day after acquiring critical evidence related to the murders. And German medics say he was likely poisoned. A couple weeks later, a freelance journalist in CAR who was investigating the murders was beaten up and his laptop and phone stolen, and was told that they were being taken because they were being used to, quote, create problems for some people. None of this definitively proves that Russia is behind the murders. CAR is an unstable country plagued by violence, so a random robbery that went wrong technically could have happened. But there are many reasons to distrust what Russian and CAR authorities are saying about what all went down. Russia kills dissidents all the time, from journalists to ex-spies, to activists to whistleblowers. And in this case, there's good reason to think that Moscow would want to get rid of Dzhemal, Rastorguev, and Radchenko because they wanted to learn something about the Kremlin that they probably wanted to keep a secret: the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group is an organization that's run almost entirely off the books, but experts say that it's overseen by the powerful Russian businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin. Prigozhin is often referred to as Putin's chef because of the extremely lucrative contracts between his catering company and the Kremlin. But he's also a fixer who runs big schemes on behalf of the Kremlin. One of them is the internet troll farm that interfered in the 2016 US elections. But the Wagner Group is probably just as controversial. The reason the Wagner Group is so shadowy is because private military organizations are technically illegal in Russia. Experts say that Moscow uses the Wagner Group to send mercenaries on riskier or more politically sensitive operations. That way, they can keep official body counts down and maintain plausible deniability when engaging in controversial international operations. The Wagner Group has been used to project Russian power in Ukraine and Syria, and experts believe it's been deployed in CIR as well. Here's why. In October 2017, Russia and CIR signed a series of agreements. Russia agreed to provide arms to CIR and train its army, and CIR agreed to allow Russia to explore mining opportunities within its mineral-rich borders. CIR has big deposits of diamonds, gold, and uranium, and Russia is eager to capitalize on that. While Russia's doing nothing illegal by sending its instructors to CIR, it's widely suspected that they're using Wagner mercenaries instead of conventional soldiers. That's raised eyebrows around the international community. What exactly are they hiding? Dzhemal, Rastorguev, and Radchenko wanted to figure out an answer to that question, and it might have cost them their lives. Hi YouTube! Thanks for watching Russia Desk. Is there a Russia-related story you want us to cover? Let us know in the comments, and we might turn it into an episode. And share this video if you enjoyed it. See you later.